Hi, friends. My name is Candace, and this week's practice is a gift of presence. Yoga is really a gift for ourselves so that we can give to others. The goal this week is to not have a goal because so often, especially the time of year we're recording this together, there's so many things on our list that we, of course, put ourselves last. We wind up not feeling well. For today's practice, we'll have some blocks prepared and these stretchy bands. We're going to work on the wrists, but also some balance work. This is a time for us to come home and be at home in our mind, but in our body. The second sutra, we also often talk about the first sutra, that's the first line of the yoga, ancient writing. The second sutra is that yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. So if you're like me and occasionally you have trouble sleeping and your mind just continues and you wonder, how do I stop it? Yoga gives you the presence of being able to notice your thoughts. So don't just give in to every thought you have. Let's sit up tall. So how do we do that? Engage the lower abdominals, the middle waist abdominals, the lower back. Lift up through the crown of the head, lengthening the sides of the neck. Now take a second to push the head slightly back on its tracks so that the weight of the head is a little bit behind you, not very far, a little bit of that double chin. Let's spin the arms a few times, kind of like you're just loosening up and waking up. Then spin the palms face up and let the hands rest on the thighs. Open up the palms so that we can receive the gift of yoga. Lower the eyelids down. I want to begin by just telling you how proud I am of you. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Keep going. I want to remind you that when you and I come together like this, we uplift each other. And I want you to know that I've got you, that you're safe here with me. So let's begin again. Sit up tall. Find the muscles responsible for lifting the spine upward, front to back, the side waist muscles, the upper back muscles. So your heart and your chest tip backward just slightly, like if your heart had eyes and those eyes were cast a little bit down. Lift the eyes of the heart slightly up, like you're looking almost at the ceiling, the top of the wall. Now take the head and slide it slightly back on its tracks. So keep the crown of the head level. Now I want you to breathe up and through your ears. I've been sort of suffering with the effects of the booster shot. And I think part of that is my ears have a little extra fluid. So I want you to breathe and open up all of those sinus and all the canals in the head. Begin making a vibrating sound in the back of the throat to steam clean and clarify the space. I want you to trust that you are in the right place now, and trust that a space is opening up for your practice here now. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Inhale deeply. Just relax and be here now. One more time. Good, and then open your eyes. Let's bring the palms together. So that little thing, put your palms together, that took a little bit of coordination. I want you to spread your fingers open and then closed. Open and then closed. That doesn't take that much coordination, but we're just warming up. Now close the fingers mostly. Now slide the hands down towards the belly, but lift the elbows up. Hold that stretch. The bones and the space in the wrist, they're very small. Well, the bones, they look more like rocks. They're more like pebbles. But the spaces between those rocks and pebbles is actually very small. Now slide the hands up, kind of thumbs to forehead, and bring the elbows together. Push. Just open the elbows out and then kind of push them in and together. Do that a few times like you're flapping the wings. Like you're pumping energy out through your hands and fueling the fire. The goal today is to have no goal. I love that. Bring the elbows open wide, bring the hands a little down. Now spin the hands so that the palms are facing out and the back of your hands push together. Now from here, try flapping the wings of the elbows up and down. Well, you're feeling this in the forearms, and the big muscles of the forearms have to thread through smallish tendons through the tunnel of the wrist to make the fingers and the hands do what they have to do, which is a lot, especially this time of year. Leave those elbows down and push the hands a little bit harder together. Make the ujjayi sound over and over. And just trust that this is a practice today in kindness, not in doing poses or even fixing your hands. Now, interlace the fingers and then push one wrist up and one down, then push the elbows in towards each other and then go the other way. One wrist up, one wrist down, and then push the elbows in towards each other like you're cracking back. So go back and forth like you're cracking back each wrist. Now, our goal is not to increase flexibility of the wrist. The wrist is what it is, but is to observe and direct the muscles that contribute to the alignment and the articulation of the joints and the fingers. The fingers have a lot of muscles and a lot of bones and a lot of joints. So now let's practice spinning the arms open that up, and spinning the shoulders open. So kind of roll in and forward and then roll out and back. My shoulders are really bothering me after getting that shot, both shoulders, not just where I got the shot. So I need to spend some time just acknowledging that my body has to recover from that. That's not something it's just going to automatically bounce back from. Now spin the arms open, leave the elbows tucked into the kind of the back ribs, and then bring the palms together in front of you, or in the front and then back. So rotate the arms in the socket of the shoulder. We're just observing and directing, and we're shifting our mind. This is probably the number one magic trick of yoga, is that you're shifting your mind from the everyday, let's say, meanderings of all the things you think into something different. Take the arms out and hold. Now pinch the shoulder blades together, almost like your arms are trying to squeeze back and behind you. Hold that there, pull the shoulders down, slide the head slightly back, and embrace the lower belly. Lower your eyelids down and just hold. So by now you should feel around the shoulders, maybe the top of the shoulders, the bottom of the neck, but the collarbones, the front of the chest opening up, because today's practice is a tonic. For the heart, it's a home for the body. 2 slow breaths. One more. And then open your eyes, release. Boy, already I feel those shoulders moving a little bit more. Let's come, we'll say to hands and knees, but I want you to feel like you can always change and shift and choose. So we're going to start, what I said was in hands and knees, but I want you to shift back towards the heels. Maybe walk your hands back and then walk back towards hands and knees. So what we're doing is we're playing around with putting varying amounts of weight on your knees versus your hands, kind of the rear wheels versus the front wheels. Because so often in yoga, we tell you over and over again, equalize the pressures and the weight, distribute evenly on the 4. That's why things have like names like animals, that's because they have 4, they're quadrupeds. But we're not quadrupeds. So we often put a little bit too much weight in the hands. So this is reminding us that those big legs, no offense, but those big legs are there to hold a little bit more of the weight than the front legs. Now come to sort of a puppy pose where you do push your hips back, but now do slide the hands forward, but put pressure. Hands dragging down into the floor. Pause to remind yourself again and again. Just be here now. Just be here now. Now begin to notice the interaction of the arm bone with the shoulder socket. We have powerful and big muscles. Think about pectorals, the deltoids on top, big swaths of sheets of muscles on the back. They all have to connect into a relatively small space. And in that way, the wrist and the shoulder share a common problem. They're not big enough. We would look funny if we had a big wrist or a big shoulder to accommodate the big tendons that would be necessary. So what happens is one or two of those tendons get inflamed. It's called tendonitis. And it starts a cascade of inflammation. Let's come up to hands and knees. Let's kind of play around with these wrists a little bit. Try spinning the hands out like a seal, and then lean a bit side to side. All right, I know you already feel this. We're already really working well. Now circle the body around. Remember, we had just practiced not putting all of your weight on your wrists. We're really not made for that. So don't think that that's a goal of yoga. Go the other way. The goal of yoga is to be here now. So that's okay if you're not here right now. A lot of us aren't here right now. Come back to center. Try that one where we flip the hands upside down. So your fingers are pointing back at your knees. And try leaning back and forward. Again, don't put a lot of pressure on the hand. Only go as far forward as your knees can balance you. So there's these powerful muscles on the top of the forearm that really move the fingers, but also twist the arm a bit or twist the wrist. Now try this. Come up onto the fists. So if you have rings, you need to spin them around so that your wrist or your knuckles are on the floor. And then do the side to side, lean and lean. I'm going to lean my hips too. I need to get into my hips. It's always a welcome thing for me. Then circle around. Notice how the arm bone, the head of the arm bone is like a ball. And then, of course, the socket is not made up of bone. It's not nearly as thick and as powerful as the legs. Go the other way. Let's just do 3 slow breaths. Observe and direct your thoughts. Remember, this is the magic of yoga. It teaches you to be present. Now bring the hands kind of together so they're still knuckles, and try this with almost all of your weight on your knees. I'm going to take my knees a little bit wider for a good stance, facing you a little. Bend your elbows and straighten them. Try that. Bend and straighten. Now what this is really doing is it's strengthening those muscles in the small space that they have, so that when you need your hands, you need to lift something heavy, you need to push something away, you need to find stability and aim your hands at something and direct them. You have the muscular strength in the wrist. With wrist, we really don't want to bend very much. And then let's move back to regular hands and knees. Now what I want to practice today is turning the toes under. Here's the thing. We're going to lift the knees or lift the knees and hips and tap them down. As you're doing this, going up and down, notice what's happening in your hands, your wrists, your shoulders, and your neck. Are you kind of transferring your body weight forward or too far back? Are you keeping your spine straight? We're going to practice putting that all together. So the knees are bending and straightening somewhat. Maybe you're going all the way back. I'm going to take a little note from my book and not put my head down. So if you see me with my head way up, don't do that. I'm doing that because I'm a little dizzy, a little lightheaded from getting that shot. Hover the knees a few inches off the floor. Now from here, practice rounding the back and extending the spine. This should take a lot of coordination and control. And it actually does put pressure on the wrist. So be careful if that's happening. Put more pressure. So kind of push a little further back. and then come down. Let's rest in child's pose. Take your knees wide. Let your arms relax. I'm going to use the block to rest my head. Let's just rest here. Breathe in. Trust that you are in the right place now. Breathe out. A calm arises when the mind is present. You're ever talking to someone and you feel distracted? Like there's other conversations or your mind is already thinking about something else and it becomes quite unpleasant. But you're ever talking to someone and you're just enjoying and loving the conversation and you're just fixated on that person and it feels, attentive and loving and blissful. I want to be here with you now. Do that for yourself. Listen to your own conversation. So construct a conversation that lifts you up. Observe thoughts that come and are unwelcome. Direct thoughts that you want. Remember, this is a beautiful, joyful experience we're having together. Inhale, exhale. Right now, there's no goal except coming here. Don't be over there, be here. One more breath. And then push up. I'm going to try coming to gate pose. If you have that band, this would be a good time to get the band ready, stretchy band. Gate pose is where you come up onto your knees. I'm going to face you so you can see, and you extend one leg straight out 90 degrees there. And now practice for a second getting equal pressure on the standing knee and the foot that's stabilizing you. So you're not leaning all the way away from it, nor are you leaning all the way towards it. Your hips are mostly level. Whatever that knee, that's the band hand that goes up overhead. If it does, I had this pain in my shoulder. This arm didn't go up at all. That's okay. Maybe it stays further out. Try that. And then the other hand wraps behind and grabs the tail of that band. I'll get it eventually. And then you begin to crawl the hands towards each other and the elbows towards the midline. So the band is doing this one long stripe from top to bottom. Your elbows should be at the top of that stripe and the bottom of that stripe. So if you could, your hands would meet behind you. Maybe you can't, and that's the purpose of the band. From here, lean towards that long leg. So lean up at that hip. Keep embracing the lower abs. We started there. You can turn your head to look towards the floor, getting a little bit more of a stretch. 3. You got this. I trust you. I'm proud of you, and I've got you. One more breath in. Come back up. Switch to the other side. So that means other leg. Balance. So first kind of get that balance. Other hand, up and over. Yeah, that's right. Okay, this shoulder is telling me, I don't know. There's an impingement right there. That's what if your hand can't go back and behind you and you get stuck right there. And I'll tell you, I think why I have that, or at least I know, is when I sit at night and I have my armrest and I have the remotes right there. I always try to get the remotes by switching my arm around. I go, I think it's actually from too much remote control TV viewing. When you're ready, this is called cow face arms, elbow to elbow. Then lean towards the straight leg. Yeah, lean over. Keep relaxing into the practice of kindness. Notice that your natural reaction is to resist, to push back, to put up a barrier, to say no. Notice that that's a natural reaction of the mind, especially when it comes to other people, but even with yourself. This is a no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. I said lean over. Notice I'm not leaning over. Don't notice that. You do what you want to do. I'm not going to lean over too much. I'm feeling that inner thigh, and I should. One more breath. And then release. Let's come back to that child's pose. Because I said that today was going to be a practice in kindness, in presence, and a tonic for the soul. So I said come to child's pose, but I really can't. I don't want to put my head all the way down today. So I'm in something close to child's pose, and give yourself that it's a continuum of health. Just breathe. Observe yourself relaxing into whatever pose you're in. You can name the pose after yourself. So put your name and then pose at the end. So I would be like candace asana. Asana means pose or seat. I'm in the place of Candace. So you do the same for you. So you give yourself permission, and you're practicing again and again. Practice means you do something. Practice isn't the not doing. Practice is doing, because our brains can't not. I can't understand that either. And that's because our brains can't not. Our brains can only do. So practice kindness. What would be a kindness here? With the legs going further out, be a kindness. And notice that a calm, a stillness arises when you're mindfully present. Let's do 2 slow breaths. Good, so begin to make your way up. I'd like to try to come to revolved extended angle before we come all the way up, but we haven't really stretched out the hips that much yet. So I'm going to start out on the knees and step 1 foot forward, and then lean a little forward and back. Now, if that kind of bothers your back knee, it's on the floor, put the blanket or fold another, part of the mat under your knee. And it's okay. It's okay to leave it there. Lean a little forward, and then try this. Try circling this knee around. So notice how your foot has to interact with the floor so that you don't fall over, so you don't lean over too far. Maybe you don't go too far forward. Go the other way. So we're training the knee and ankle, much like we trained the wrist and the shoulder to work together. The hips, we don't have to train as much. They're not only pretty smart, they're pretty thick. And then push forward and hold. So I'm going to use blocks here. Once you're in your farthest forward posture of Anjaneyasana, that means low lunge, twist towards the knee. So maybe take this hand on the same leg and push it into the thigh. Your goal is always to open up a channel for clarity. And what we're filling that channel today is patience and kindness. So imagine that we have, okay, so when we get here, we're pushing into this thigh. Try coming up and bringing this opposite hand around, but stay pushing forward. So I want to remind you, today's practice is a tonic for the soul. The gift of yoga is the presence we give to ourselves. Now, this particular pose, revolved extended angle, has traditionally been my favorite pose. So if I was going to come up with a candace pose, this might have been it, but not so much anymore. The reason I used to love it so much is that it revolves the torso, it revolves the intestines, and it promotes the movement of the contents, which I always need. Your results may vary. Let's come back to kneeling. Remember that leg though? I want to go on to the wrists for a second. Remember we were here with the wrists. Remember we had the palms on the floor. I want you to put weight forward onto the hands, but lift the heels of the hands up and down, up and down. Okay, are you putting weight on the hands? That's what is going to give you kind of wrist hand strength. So often in yoga, I say, push into downward dog, as if your hands know what to do. The hands aren't really, our hands are not paws. We're not used to putting weight on them. So maybe your hands don't know what to do. They have a bad posture. Luckily, they're not in shoes all the time. So they pretty much have figured some things out. Now put the heels down, the heel of the hand, and lift the other part, I guess everything that's not the heel of the hand, up and down. Ooh. The goal today is to have no goal. I love that. That we're giving the body some love. We're giving the wrists some love. Just observe without judgment. Today is judgment free. Maybe today is not the day to do your full yoga practice. And I always want you to feel like you can do this. Remember, I've got you. Put the palms down, the fingers down, each knuckle down. Now let's go back to what we did before. Remember where we lifted the knees? Do cat with the spine and cow with the spine. Straighten the spine and bring the knees down. Now you don't have to do it exactly in that order. I just want you to be able to control and direct how much weight you're putting on what part of your hand. The wrists are strong because we strengthen them. The knees and the spine, they can work together or independently to put it all together. Doesn't matter to me what order you're doing that. You could even push back and forward. Remember, we did that a little bit. We can rock side to side. We're just trying to coordinate the bending and straightening of the knees, the movement of the spine, strengthening around the wrists, the elbow and the shoulder, and being able to sort of spring the body. So let's try that. Come down to hands and knees, lean a little bit back, rock the tailbone under. Now, like a wave, spring forward and into a flat spine, almost like a plank. Push back, rock the pelvis, roll the spine, spring or like shoot forward, unwinding the spine. Push back, rock under, curl up and spring forward, hold and back. Do a couple more like that. So we're practicing sending energy up the spine. Remember, the overarching goal is to not have a goal, but we do that by filling our practice with love and patience. Trust that you're in the right place right now. You've tuned to the right channel. There's an old saying. 2 more times. Inhale, exhale. Come back to hands and knees. Let's step that other foot forward before I forget. We started out just with 1 foot forward and leaning a little forward and back. Remember, if this knee on the floor hurts, you know what to do. Give it a little padding. You can always use your blocks. You might as well. We're going to use them in a moment in a very unconventional way that's going to test your balance. And then when you're done rocking, push forward and hold. Remember the second line of the Yoga Sutra. The Yoga Sutra was this, you can think of it as a book. I guess that's one way to think of it. Think of it as an ancient tablet, maybe. The first line is, and now yoga. It's the most important line, of course, because it sets up a space and a time for attention. And now yoga. The second line is that yoga stops stops the fluctuation. Bring the same hand to the same knee, push that down, and that twists your chest towards that inner thigh a little, not a lot. And that's the reason this revolved extended angle pose has not been my favorite one. Once I had little sacrum pain, I realized I was over twisting by pushing too hard. So don't push hard. Don't demand that the parts of the body that you think have to come together do come together. You may have a joint that will just never do that thing. If you want to come up a little higher, take this other hand to that outer knee thigh as well. So it's a slightly different angle. Now, if this does feel really good, bring the belly towards the thigh. Again, why a lot of people don't like revolved extended angle pose is that they feel like they have too much matter here, and it gets squished into the matter here, leg and belly. Well, that's really the magic of it. That's what moves the contents of the intestine. So that might be a very good thing for you. After 2 breaths, just spending time where you are. You don't have to fix this pose. Exhale. I invite you to come up. So I usually do that by holding on to something, pushing down, and rising up. Let's grab the band. Let's see, am I still on camera? I'm still on camera. If you don't have the band, that's okay. That's okay. Trust me, everything we're going to do is going to be hard enough without the band. Can you, first of all, loop the band on one foot and still hold the ends of the band? If your band is only 2 inches long, you can't do this. It has to be about 3 to 5 feet long. And then balance. That's it. Balance. So I want you to think of Tadasana. That's mountain. That's where we're standing. Level. Drawing the crown of the head up to the sky. Pulling the belly into the spine. Can you lift the knee up a little higher? So notice you don't need the band for this at all. You can, but you don't need it. It's just adding really a more difficult element to balance. Now, before you go anywhere, I want you to notice what the foot on the floor is doing. Remember how we were educating the foot, the knee. If you can now, try twisting your foot out and in. Really what you're doing is you're twisting the upper leg bone. So just practice that without levitating your shoulders. Make sure your shoulders stay down. There's no goal today. We're just practicing. We're practicing kindness. Letting yourself off the hook. Giving yourself a day off is another way to think of this. And pause to remind yourself, it's enough that you're here now. Even if you're not right here, you're over there, but you're here. Wherever you are, be there. Hold straight and try lifting the other heel up and down. So remember we did those little hand push-ups? We're doing it with the foot on the floor. So this is where you're lucky if you don't have a band, because this gets really challenging in a hurry, doesn't it? So notice that to balance, you must be present. You must be present. You ever try carrying a million things upstairs that are icy and the dog's running past you? You're not present and you're not balanced. Give this a couple more practice runs. There's nothing here that has to be perfect. This is just a tonic for the mind, heart, and body. And come down. Let's try the other foot. Feel that calf. So let's give that calf a stretch to begin with. If you have this little saddle thing, try flexing your foot and pointing the toe a couple times. Give that calf a little tonic. And then hold. Remember, shoulders, elbows down and back. Rock the foot in and out. Really what doing is twisting the leg bone. And what that does is it tells the foot on the floor, I need you. I need you. So remember, I started out our practice saying, I got you, and I'm proud of you. This foot on the floor should be saying that, I got you. And if that's the only thing you're working on now, Work on that. I got you. That foot on the floor is profoundly setting the groundwork for anything else that might come after. Even if you fall, it's that foot on the floor, not paying attention. Hold it still. Let's try. The heel on the floor now, up and down. Wow. The foot that I have up off the floor is the plantar fasciitis one, and I've been working with it a lot. The foot on the floor, I've been ignoring a lot. So you can tell I can't keep this balanced. Time and attention. That's what grows. That's what grows things. Time and attention. And if you can't do any of this, good for you. That's okay. Nothing has to be attained today. Nothing. And come down. Let's let go of that band. Let's try this. Do you have a block? I got one more thing for you, then we'll kind of call it. Just start out one foot on the block, kind of like you're stretching. In fact, I'm going to start with this other one, the one I was just standing on. Lean a little forward. All right, blocks come in different shapes. They actually come in different sizes. I think they're still called blocks, even if they're not in the shape of a block. Mine is about 4 to 5 inches thick. They have ones that are much thinner, 2 to 3 inches. But standard is about 4. Now try this. Set up your block, right? So it's, flat. Try standing on it and balance. Just balance. Just try to take the other foot up off the floor. That's it. That's the end. That's all she wrote. This is the whole ta-da moment. Ta-da sana. I don't know why this is hard. Maybe because the density of the block is different than what our foot is used to. Maybe because we're afraid we're 4 inches up off the floor. I don't know why this is harder. If it's not hard for you, give this outer leg a lift. 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 Make sure you're spinning the toes inward or downward, not up and out. None of this twisting open business. I give you another few seconds to practice this. Patiently waiting. I feel like I don't fall off this block. And then come down. Ooh, we have to stretch that. Let's switch. So stand. One foot on the block. That's it. What is happening? Are you having this revelation that why is this difficult? Okay. Yeah, you got it. If you want to lift that outer leg, if this wasn't. Now, when you do lift that leg, take care that your hips are staying relatively stabilized and level. When we walk, that is a natural walk. Some of us let the hips really go, and some of us keep them really stiff. The best is something in between, but something that's natural to you. Being able to direct mind to body is really the key to any change you might want to make. Like my hips probably shift a bit too much. Observe yourself and direct. Direct, for example, the lower abdominals, drawing inward and upward now. Remember the head slightly backwards. So all of those elements of good posture. Give this another 5 or 6 tries. I'm leaning. Don't lean. Don't just shift and hold where it feels safe. Keep reorganizing, restacking, and come down. All right, let's move the block. Woo. We'll bring the hands to kind of the sacrum, palms on the back of the hips. Push the hips forward and try extending the spine. Oh, my aching back, right? Chin always down. Good. Maybe close your eyes. Breathe the whole body. We started our practice breathing the ears and breathing the sinuses and shifting from all of that resistance and trusting that a space is opening. First thing I said to you is, I'm proud of you. I've got you. That just being here shows that you have battled the storm. Just being here shows that you have endured all of the obstacles, and somehow you're here. You're here on the other side. 2 soaking breaths. And then make your way down onto one side. So remember, I typically step 1 foot forward, the other one back, come down through a kneeling pose. You could have done downward dog if you love the dog. A lot of people do. Come to one side. All right, how's your shoulder? My shoulder's, I got the shot in the arm there. Take the top knee forward. Then spin the chest to the sky. So take this top shoulder back. I'm not going to tell you how far to go because it doesn't matter how far you go. What matters is that you found something. Remember I said whenever you've been in a conversation with someone and you're distracted by another thought or conversation or something loud, and it's very unpleasant. Whenever you've been in a conversation with someone and you give it your full attention and that person and you are just locked, it feels like joy, something you want to keep. Give that attention to your body, to your spine, to the energy pathways. This is a time, this is a season to be home in your heart. Just let go of your plans. Just let go. All the things we just did with the wrists and the arms, and we just did a lot of balancing with the feet, the legs. Let go of those. Just breathe. Let that calm arise. Just breathe. Let go of resistance and judgment. Now we'll go over to the other side. So start the same way. I'm going to flip, but you can roll and just kind of listen to my words. Come to one side. You have to organize your arm and shoulder up top here. Take the top knee up and over, let it fall to the floor. Organize the chest and the shoulder, and then twist the chest open. So if something's not going to meet the floor, that something is going to be your upper body. Usually it's your lower body. So this is different. This is spinning from the ground, from the tail up. Once you get there, decide to let go of perfecting the pose. Shift from your to-do list to a blank page. Trust that you're in the right place right now. You don't have to check the map. You don't have to check the calendar or the clock. Imagine that time and pressures have stopped. We have this pause button on our entertainment screen. Stop streaming for a moment. Stop moving the story forward. It's okay. It's okay to be right here, right now, fully in your body. Come home to your heart. Good. So when you're ready, join me in a Sukhasana, the hands together, swim the shoulders, lift the shoulders, pull them back. Inhale the arms up overhead if they go. Exhale, sweep and collect all of the energy of the universe back into the heart. When it resides in my heart and your heart, we are one. Namaste.